So that was a disappointing episode. I think what I'm most frustrated with is the White Walkers. I always had such high hopes that they weren't going to be just this unexplainable force of destruction, that they were a kind of balance. And you saw the Lord of Light and the followers of the Lord of Light being so aggressive and so awful for 8 seasons and saying that their way is the only true path, everyone else has to be burned and has to be destroyed. You see them seeming to reject this fundamental part of the universe, which is death and which is darkness, and there has to be a kind of balance. But they rejected this, and you see Melisandre, you see her just perpetually trying to keep herself younger, you see them raising and resurrecting people, so you see them as this kind of unstoppable force that's rejecting death, rejecting, natural cycles, and also rejecting any other form of knowledge and truth. And then I saw the White Walkers as a kind of response to that, rising up, and there was this line where the Hound and Arya were talking to this dying man, and he talked about, just balance being lost, and he looks around and he just sees this lack of balance, and I thought the White Walkers were trying to provide that. So I had these great hopes that season 8, we were going to see Sam kind of starting to piece this mystery together, and they were going to realize that the White Walkers weren't actually who they needed to attack. They needed to attack what was causing this lack of balance, within their own ranks. But then, no, it's going to be none of that. It's just going to be the White Walkers are just this unexplainable evil force that just wants to destroy all of humanity, and their real target is Bran, because this poetic reason that Sam gives, death is really forgetting and being forgotten, and since Bran remembers everything, he's kind of this symbol of, humanity and humanity living on, and if the White Walkers were able to kill him, well, really it would just bring things back to a year ago when Bran didn't have all this knowledge, but whatever, it's a symbolic victory for the White Walkers, and I just think it's so disappointing. It seems like the White Walker battle is going to be wrapped up next episode, and it seems like the basic framework of the season is going to be a couple staging episodes, big, maybe episode long battle against the White Walkers, then a couple staging episodes, big epic battle against Cersei. And that's exactly what I didn't want the season to be. It's just really disappointing. And then moving through the characters we have left, so Bran, he reminds you of Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen. It's this idea that if you really could see the past, the future, and the present all at the same time, see like God would see, you wouldn't really be very empathetic and compassionate. It would make you kind of detached and aloof, unable to connect with the people around you. So it's an interesting idea, but it also makes it hard to really care about Bran and really feel that invested when he's acting so strange. Arya, last season, in season 7, when she was talking with Sansa all the time and she was just acting like a complete psychopath, when Littlefinger died at the end of the season, there was this theory that, all those scenes we saw of her acting so weird and strange, that was all just an act to fool Littlefinger. But she's basically acted the same way for a lot of season 8 as well, so I guess that's just Arya's new personality that is just very cold, very off-putting, and it just spoils a lot. There's some good Arya scenes when Arya said to the Hound, when have you ever fought for someone who wasn't, what have you ever fought for anyone besides yourself? And he says, well, I fought for you. That was probably the best kind of reunion scene we've seen so far, I think. But then the scene with her and Gendry, one, Arya's personality is just so weird. Now, 2, Arya still looks like a 12-year-old, Gendry looks like a man. I know a lot of people like that scene, but it just seemed a little strange to me. The only character who is really interesting is Sansa and Dany. So Dany has this, she's a likable character, but she also has this just absolute belief in her absolute entitlement to just rule every kingdom. I guess not every kingdom, not Essos, but every kingdom in Westeros. And then you have Sansa, a likable character who has this understandable, paranoia and wariness about trusting other people given what she's been through. So this is a really interesting conflict. And at the end of the episode where Dany finds out, from Jon about his true parentage and is very suspicious and very wary, this is just the only thing that's really interesting left in the show. And then Cersei's an interesting character, but we didn't really see her at all. So we have this really just interesting dynamic between, the North wanting some degree of freedom and autonomy, and Dany feeling if she gives any kind of ground on her claims to legitimacy, then she fears that, she's going to lose all her legitimacy. So there's this interesting conflict, but other than that, it's just disappointing episode. And then Tyrion only seems to exist now for people to talk about how smart he is, and then him also not really to do anything that intelligent, and he's kind of fallen by the wayside along with all the other plotters and the schemers. Varys completely gone, Littlefinger obviously gone, but even before he died, he was really sidelined as any kind of actual like intelligent schemer, and now we've really lost that aspect of the show, kind of the plotting and the scheming. I guess the other best parts of the episode, Brienne, obviously, this little love triangle with her, Tormund and Jaime. And it's hard to believe that Tormund, talking about, you know, the story of suckling at a giant's teat and then spilling ale all over himself, that was a high point of the episode. And Brienne getting knighted, it was a really nice moment, but also Brienne, she's been in Jaime's good graces. You know, he gave her that Valyrian steel sword. So I think episode or season 3, she's, you know, the most trusted advisor to Sansa. I think she was Kingsguard to Renly back when we first saw her. So the fact that she's just getting knighted now, I guess it's nice, but it seems like an oversight that she hasn't been knighted already. She's like has such a high position, so I get it's a nice symbolic thing. But I don't know, it just is just disappointing episode, I guess is all I can say. And then just too many reunions. Arya and Gendry, we already saw them last episode. Arya and the Hound, Dolores Dolores, Ed and Jon, Theon and Sansa, Jaime and Brienne, just reunion after reunion after reunion. And none of this central conflict, which we care about, which is Dany versus Sansa and Dany versus Jon to an extent, and just this fascinating mess and tangle that, you know, is so interesting because we like all these characters, but, you know, they're coming into this just unstoppable conflict. And I just think they're scared to really explore that because all these characters are well liked and they have fans. And if they have any of these characters start to, you know, double cross one another or be too villainous, they're going to piss off, you know, a large section of the audience. So they'd rather just stick with these kind of safe, cutesy moments and really not dive into just this conflict that is just itching to be dived into. So I guess, yeah, I've kind of rambled, but that's my biggest frustration because I see this conflict that's so interesting and I would love to just see them explore it. And this episode really scared me that they're barely gonna just scratch the surface of what they could really get into, and that's a little disappointing.